The crowd do play a big part here. They have shown their discontent, but if the team plays well and fires them up, then it's an intimidating venue, even though it's a vast bowl of a stadium. As we are in Olympic year again, memories of 2012, when this was called the Olympic Stadium. Referee Simon Hooper gets us underway. Monday night in the East End. And important points, maybe more for the psychology of West Ham and to get out of a rut, but for Brentford to get up the table and play out the campaign with the kind of relaxed approach they've had for the last couple of years. And they have punched above their weight, to be fair. Souček trying to get it through, but there was no Bowen waiting. Navrapanos, who actually scored an own goal when the teams met in November.
It's that jump, isn't it, in the early exchanges? Only just a few seconds into this one, Kurt Zouma launching one into the night sky. Doesn't exactly calm down a defence, looking to start a game in a solid fashion. Plenty of attacking intent, of course. Bowen, key man for them going forward. Huge, of course, for David Moyes to have Lucas Paqueta back. I saw them earlier on in the season away at Luton when they were in a real purple patch. He had himself, Alvarez and Ward-Prowse in midfield, who dominated proceedings. Seems like an awfully long time ago.
Reguilon was caught in possession. He tries to bite back in here. Comes for Kudus, who was trying to bend it the other way, I think it's fair to say.
Good intent, though, isn't it? Giving Reguilon no spare moment at all on the ball, getting after him. And again, another player in Kudus that West Ham have high hopes for in re-establishing themselves.
Reguilon made a brief appearance as a substitute here before Christmas in a losing Manchester United side when he was on loan at Old Trafford. Formerly, of course, with Spurs. Tried to get Paqueta into the game, and Emerson as well coming around the back here. Can he pick out the right cross? Not quite. Well read by Jensen. Defensive responsibilities from midfield. But a worry for Thomas Frank that they got to the byline so easily, West Ham.
There was an awful lot of room. The pullback to Bowen was on. It was telegraphed, if anything. Easily stepped in and dealt with by Brentford, but undoubtedly a very bright start from the home side. A much needed bright start as well.
Paqueta to Bowen, who can play wide, of course, as well as through the middle. And has really turned himself into an outstanding Premier League player in by Sofal. Oh, well, it came very quickly to Souček, and he couldn't keep it down. It's got the crowd going.
Certainly has been a very, very lively start. Brentford, a complete dereliction of defensive duty. Nobody picks him up. That's a huge chance. One to really settle the nerves of fans and players alike.
He's had a good scoring season. He wanted his best in the last campaign, but it's been a great acquisition, he and Sofal, the two Czech Republic internationals. We understand even Hašek, their manager, is here tonight. Here's Ward-Prowse, who was the player who flicked it on to Souček. Oh, it's put away in impressive style by Jarrod Bowen. That's just what David Moyes would have wanted. The early goal to get inroads against the struggling team quickly, but also to lift the support that he knows has been shortchanged recently.
Perfect. Less than 5 minutes, 1 up. Intense pressure. from the get-go from the home side. An emphatic finish from Jarrod Bowen. Again, the pressing from West Ham is there for all to see. Brentford looking for a cheap foul in that initial instance. After that, really composed, inventive play from West Ham. It's a quick manoeuvring of the feet, isn't it, for Jarrod Bowen as it flips up onto his left foot. Didn't seem to be too much in that from West Ham's point of view. They played on. Paqueta at the hub of it. Ward-Prowse next. Look at that. Can you call it closing down for Brentford? I don't think you can. Wonderfully struck shot by Jarrod Bowen, in off the post. Gives the goalkeeper absolutely no chance at all. And look, he knows exactly what it means, not just for him, but broadly for West Ham.
Yeah, he's been without a goal. It's his 150th West Ham Premier League appearance tonight. It's his first Premier League goal of the calendar year. We're nearly into March, and he's been chalking them out at a more regular rate than that. 7 appearances without scoring, and now he's equalled his best Premier League return of 12 in a season, which was set a couple of years ago. And there was a big question mark as to whether he would be a Premier League player. Had a little taste of it with Hull City, and then continued to play for the Humberside club, and no one really wanted to buy him, take a chance on him, but West Ham did, and they've turned him into something very special. He's turned himself into something very special. Yeah,
looks very at home, doesn't he, at the top level. Really nice, unassuming young footballer. Absolutely right what you're saying, Martin. Hull City set the world alight. Now he's doing the same in the Prem for West Ham.
Here's Kudus, who wanted to get it onto his left foot. Now he for so foul, and Bowen's done it again. Great start for West Ham, but it's just the way it's been going for Brentford. The visiting players have a little inquest, hanging their heads as the celebration go on in front of the cameras. Not so much for a manager who would never take anything for granted.
Penny for the thoughts of the Bees here. They need to regroup. They need to sort something out. But I tell you what, Martin, it was a very good job. We kept on talking about Jarrod Bowen.
Yes.
And he duly obliged, didn't he?
Once Between again, the goals, the compliments.
Exactly. Spurning one, once again starting in a deep line position to get on the ball, to get turned, to be able to push West Ham forward. Then after that, we talk about movement in the 18-yard box from players. This is absolutely perfection. Stepping onto it, just transfers the power in the cross. Nothing less, you've got to say, than what West Ham deserve.
Well, he's a father of twins, and he's got a twin brace here in a couple of minutes. And now they do look, Brentford, to the likes of Mopé, who's made a good return to Brentford. And of course been away at Brighton and Everton, and his link up with Ivan Toney is good, but when your defenders mean you've got to start from 2 goals adrift, it's hard. Here's Frank Onyeka. Jensen. I don't see any banners being held up at the moment by the West Ham fans.
I think it said it all, didn't it, Martin, when you saw the face of David Moyes just a couple of moments ago? I'm sure inwardly extremely happy, ecstatic, if not absolutely delirious, but he knows there's so long to go in this game.
They were relaxed enough to have a little sit down and chat with Kevin Nolan. But Brentford have not just corner kicks and free kicks, they have Jensen's long throw. Put it back in again, and Areola gets it, drops it, gets it again.
Nice touch for the goalkeeper, isn't it? He's been barely involved in this opening almost 10 minutes worth of football, and he'd quite gladly take it that way for the rest of the game, because it has been West Ham pressing the issue, pushing forward. Yes, there's the expectation of a home side taking the game to the opposition in the broader context of the debate around David Moyes. It's the perfect start for the Hammers.
Kudus. Already with 5 attempts, that's as worrying almost for Brentford as the fact that 2 of them have gone in. Not quite as worrying as the 2 going in, but you know what I mean. And in 10 minutes, it's been one-way traffic, apart from that Jensen long throw into the box just now. 5 previous top-flight meetings, all of them won by Brentford. Two of them here. Ivan Toney scored in both, and Neil Maupay scored in visits with Brighton to this stadium. So they've got a bit of previous that they need to dig into now from Brentford's point of view. That's a dreadful start. All the planning. Yeah, they've had less time than David Moyes because they had a midweek game, but even so, this is Monday. You know, it's a lot of time to get yourself organised and orderly.
I think as well, having seen Thomas Frank over the years, the reflection of the jeopardy of the game is in direct relation to how quickly he chomps on that chewing gum, doesn't it? The quicker it gets, the more stressful the situation.
They've now conceded 46 league goals this season, exactly the total of the entire last season. Stats don't always tell the story, but I think that does. There's 3 in the middle. They're very good at getting players in the box. And they need to do that. They're headed down by Reguilon. That was a bit of pressing from James Ward-Prowse, but not enough really to force that uncertainty.
It's indecision all across the Brentford team at the moment, hence the fact that we saw that huddle when the second goal had gone in. Thomas Frank, all animation on the touchline, barking orders onto his side. He can't kick the ball for them though, can he? He's got to trust in the generals that he's got on the pitch, and at now, the moment that we're looking at the game, they've let him down so far. Plenty of work for them to do to get back into it.
We mentioned Paqueta's return, and that's unlucky for Brentford. It's happened on this day when they're visiting, but it's not just about him. The fact that he's out there puts other players in the right positions to get the best out of their game, which hasn't been the case when the Brazilian's been out. Although Zuma's having to play as the left-sided centre-half, which is not his normal game. The likes of Aguerd and Ogbonna not involved, and here is Maupay, and they've got one back. Well, that's the kind of response that's kept Brentford in the business the last couple of seasons. And Maupay, who likes this ground from his Brighton days, has done it for Brentford here at a very important time.
The frustration for David Moyes is, when you are in a purple patch in a game, do not make it easy for the opposition to score. Yes, it's good play from Brentford, but my word, is it too easy for them to scythe through the West Ham defence. Ivan Toney's got wandering. He's not been in the game enough, the Brentford hitman, so he goes looking out wide to get on the ball. Nice little ball slipped into Maupay, but he's in acres of space, isn't he? Way too much room for the ball for Keane Lewis-Potter. And the goalkeeper has offered him up a third of the goal there at his near post. Unconventional the finish, but still way too much space across the board.
Yeah, he sort of slipped into the finish, didn't he? But it slipped into the net, and that's suddenly, and the point you were making about David Moyes not taking anything for granted. And it is that centre of defence. Aguerd was left out. He was rolled by Taiwo Awoniyi at Forest last weekend, and perhaps lost his place on the back of that. That was the first goal they conceded. Zuma hasn't quite looked the player of old this season. And here's Keane Lewis-Potter, who's a winger really, but being used as a wing-back. Has played it right as tonight and left in recent games. And getting stuck in as well.
That's the key thing though, isn't it? Going back to your point, Martin, about changes in defence. Aguerd, if you look at West Ham so far this year, plenty of situations where his fingerprints have been all over it. David Moyes frustrated, and the Kurt Zouma conundrum potentially with Father Time maybe just getting to catch up with him, slowing down of his ability to get around the pitch at the back in defence for West Ham, something that was keenly shown in that particular situation where he got dragged out wide, didn't deal with the ball.
Strength from Tony. Norgard. Lewis Potter. Reguilon just taken out underneath the ball. But then fouled. No, it's just a throw. Simon Hooper cupping an earful or two here.
Well, the key thing is,
it's in the penalty area.
If he also thinks it's shoulder to shoulder, then that's absolutely fine. But that is in the small of the back, really, isn't it? It's not playing the ball at all. It's playing Reguilon.
Michael Oliver is the VAR man tonight. Benyu with the initial header, but suddenly there's a spring in Brentford's steps, which was just the opposite. And you saw after David Moyes sort of shot of him down on the bench, looking at the rerun of the goal, and his eyes blazing when he stepped away from it.
It's just way too easy. Kurt Zouma's initial attempted clearance went absolutely nowhere, but then parting like the Red Sea, making sure that there was enough space for Brentford to really go at them.
So foul. Oh, he's done well. The better of Jensen. And it's skied by Paquetá. You put that down to rustiness, maybe? I don't think he's done. He's made a mess of it.
Wonderful play once again, isn't it? Just bobble up in front of Paquetá, hitting that on the half volley with his right foot. Ambitious, shall we say. Rusty, possibly more accurate.
Here's a player who absolutely loves the football at his feet. And sometimes you wonder whether he's quite playing to tactical instructions, more that Brazilian samba style. But he's been a great acquisition here.
Oh, it's been thrilling to watch. You don't get mentioned in dispatches with Manchester City, do you, without being able to handle a football, to work your socks off, to be robust at the very highest level.
Here's the two-goal man, Jarrod Bowen. Emerson. Now Tony. Norgard. And Lewis Potter on the gallop again with one assist to his name already. And suddenly changed the atmosphere in this huge arena. Admiration is given way to anxiety. Bowen is fouled. Onyeka from one side. The fourth official is Tony Harrington. Of course, with Paquetá injured, Kudus was away at the AFCON. He's certainly back now. He's been another excellent recruit. The likes of Ben Rama and Fornals being moved on during the recent transfer window. There's no doubt when West Ham had this team out, which maybe there's still some juggling in the back four to get right, although Sofal and Emerson have been the first choice fullbacks, the same in the centre-backs. But for the rest of the team, I think it's perhaps as good as it gets, with the greatest respect to Calvin Phillips, who has got a bit to do to get back to the player that Manchester City thought they signed, let alone West Ham. Was this a penalty, David?
I think if the referee's deemed it as shoulder to shoulder, then I understand why he's allowed it to play on, but it is still Kudos playing the man, not the ball. So when it comes down to it, I think they've got a huge shout for a penalty there. Anywhere else on the pitch, you've probably seen a free kick.
Bowen wins it back, on the hunt for a hat-trick. Ball was won, no foul. And then there is by Paquetá. Simon Hooper is a little bit of a rarity, as you would know from your playing days, David, that not many referees have had a go at playing professional football, been in the academies at clubs. He was at Swindon Town. Was that his judgment on that?
Point to the ball, doesn't he? Quite clearly thinks that it's a clean win of the ball. I must say I've got my reservation. That second one is obviously a foul.
The argument, of course, from the referee authorities is you have to start refereeing when you're 12 or 13 years old and you don't have a football career. I'm not sure that stands up. Here's standing up across for Emerson. Ooh, for Paquetá, rather. That was better than the first one.
A bit more of his bread and butter, this one, isn't it? Allowing it to come all the way across the 18-yard box. Seen it very early indeed. Able to set his sights. It's a nice, sweet strike of the ball. Tough one, though, because he's gone front on with his foot in a straight line, not kicked back across it.
If you think it's easy, go and try it in the garden. I don't mean you. Here's Kudus. He has a go, as he loves to do. 10 Premier League goals, all in London. 9 of them here and 1 at Brentford.
Showing a bit more of the impetus that we saw in the early stages of the game, didn't we, from West Ham? I think going back to potentially that first choice 11 that you were talking about, Martin, with the likes of Kudos in and Paquetá. Maybe that's where the frustration comes from the West Ham fans. Yes, not winning games in 2024 hasn't helped at all, but when it comes to that discussion of style over substance, they've got players in there that can thrill, that can entertain, that can really affect a football match, and they want to see more of that, which is absolutely their right, given what they do and the miles that they travel and the money that they spend watching this side. They can demand that, as well as points on the board and trophies in the cabinet.
Well, going back down the decades, West Ham have always had a reputation for attractive football. Their oldest living players here tonight, Ken Brown, a centre-back, alongside the legendary Bobby Moore back in the 1960s. He's 90 earlier this month. Reguilon was definitely coming second in that. And for his reaction rather than the foul, and Jensen stopping him getting into further trouble.
Well, there's nothing much you can say to this replay because, unfortunately, Sergio, that's a foul and your reaction is categorically a yellow card. Yeah. The players are told, Martin, aren't they? They're told.
Well, this season particularly, they have been told. But I suppose there is a quiet word you can do and get away with still, but that wasn't a quiet word. And it was a very inflammatory gesture, if you like, for those watching, and bad news for Thomas Frank, particularly if one of the best free kick takers in modern football puts this in the right area, James Ward-Prowse. So foul. A big switch of play. Back in by Paquetá. Zuma stayed in there. And now they might be a little bit light at the back if Brentford can break. But reinforcements. And Zuma's back. Mope has done extremely well. He scored in 5 consecutive games until recently. He scored tonight. And, he was a subject, really, of a lot of jibing at Everton, where he, however hard he tried, and he certainly tries, he couldn't put the ball past the opposing keepers. Onyeka. Good idea, the early cross. Alvarez, challenged by Tony. Norgard stepping in. It's there again. Mope hanging out on the edge of the area now, making a move in. From our angle, it's difficult to see whether that rolled away from Areola, whether it was rolling across this way. It's a corner.
There was a sharp intake of breath from the spectators around us, Martin. You're absolutely right. It looked like he might have been bobbling
towards Mope for a tackle.
Straight into the goal.
Well, Arsenal pulled them to bits with set pieces at this end of the ground in the last game here. Adding to that was, of course, Declan Rice, a long-time West Ham captain, and was very much involved from Arsenal's point of view. It'll be an in-swinger this time. Zanka's gone to the near post. Ayers in there is a big man. West Ham deal with it well. It's going to be hurled back in again, one suspects, from Matthias Jensen. A very lively first 25 minutes here in East London tonight. These are good first contact from Brentford here, and maybe a second contact as well, but Paquetá gets us a little further away, not quite as far as he would have wanted. It's going to come back in again. Zuma's there. It's not what you call decisive clearing.
It's not clearing lines, is it? It's muddling the ball away to some form of safety, but once again it gives Jensen another time a chance to hurl it back toward goal.
It's interesting, the setup. They've got three players beyond the far post. And maybe they're knowing that the ball's going to be crossed in like that. Rather than hurled in. Side flag is up. And West Ham can draw breath.
That's off the hook, doesn't it? Plenty for David Moyes to be mindful about.
Yeah, Brentford getting more possession, but the only attempt is the one that Mope put in the net, compared to 8 at the other end. But it's a game very much in keeping with this season's Premier League, where defending is perhaps not the 20 team's strongest suits. There's another potential miscalculation. Zuma doesn't know where it was. He recovered a little bit quicker than Lewis Potter. Alvarez. And from Ward-Prowse, who could get it back again from Emerson, and does. So foul. Kudus has done well to get it in. It rather took his teammates by surprise. A little bit flat-footed in the middle. Bowen had come short, but Thomas Souček could have made a run in there.
I think if you take a look at where the two goals came from, there was a certain element of gambling, wasn't there? Jarrod Bowen with two very smart finishes, but put himself in the position to break the lines, to get into the 18-yard box to supplement the attack.
Ben Mee, a long-time servant of Burnley. Who seem doomed to relegation. At the greatest respect to Burnley and Sheffield United, it may be the only one place that Brentford are trying to avoid. But we've seen rallies over the last third of a season, and while there's points to be played for, you can't rule anybody out.
True. I mean, it's been Tough, hasn't it, for both Burnley and Sheffield United. Chuck Luton into the melting pot as well. Teams that really did thrill over the course of another marathon-like championship season to climb up and into the Premier League. I mean, the Luton story was just absolutely phenomenal, isn't it? But I did think that Burnley, given the way that they dominated the second tier, would adapt slightly better. The inherent fight of a Sheffield United as well, giving them half a chance, but seems
they're
like
fighting with each other.
Exactly, the only fight at the moment, which is never ever a good sign. Listening to Chris Wilder's comments, trying to douse the flames a little bit with it, because we do love to talk about those particular instances, but it is a glaring reflection on disharmony within a squad when you've got teammates going at each other.
Half an hour gone. Ayer, he was the unfortunate player to slip, to let Erling Haaland in for the only goal of the game at Manchester City last Tuesday. Soucek's got into the box, which is always a target, a real tower of power. He'd probably like the ball to come in a bit earlier, but they've taken the low road. And nearly found a way to the byline. Ward-Prowse. His first season here, of course, after Southampton were relegated. No, they haven't quite zipped. That area on the far side was the real way they got a grip early in the game, West Ham.
It's faded out somewhat, hasn't he, Paqueta, in the last 10 or so minutes. Unhappy with this particular decision, looking for a foul. Kind of see part of his point. He had actually passed the ball out of play before the foul was committed.
So foul. Brentford trying to harry and hassle, and Reguilon, the player closest to the ball, has got to be judicious in his approach to closing down. And talked himself into trouble, that early booking. Emerson. Ward-Prowse. Paqueta. If it wasn't a penalty at the other end, that certainly wasn't. But put the ball into a dangerous area, Kudus. Reguilon, cut out by Mavropanos, was taken out by Norgard, the referee right there. Lets play go on. It might be a great decision from Simon Hooper, because Kudus lets fly.
It was a really good advantage that was played. Murmurs instantly from the West Ham fans about the potential of a foul being given, but ends up with a shot on target, perfectly placed by the referee to play on.
Reguilon. Jensen. They left Janelt out tonight, which very rarely happens.
I think as well it goes back to the point that you made earlier on, Martin, about Brentford being in the Premier League. I still think, even though you're talking about multiple seasons at this level, it's still 4, 5, 6 years of consolidation before any dreams of anything else come by. And the players that we've mentioned, the likes of Vitaly Janelt on the bench, Jensen another one, Norgard, key figures that did so well getting them out of the actual championship and have become established quality Premier League players. The way that they've done it, the way that they've adapted and evolved. Ivan Toney potentially is the big one that's going to be moving on, but his journey through the divisions has been a joy to watch.
And they have signed a potential replacement, Igor Thiago from Club Bruges, a Brazilian. He's played in Brazil and Bulgaria and Belgium. And Britain now. Certainly Brentford, anyway. Here's the Mexican, Alvarez. Emerson goes. First comes the Dane Zanka, nicknamed after a character in that film, Cool Runnings, I believe. The Premier League allow all sorts of names on shirts these days. You'd have had Prutz on yours, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, that would have been the nicer end of what people might have suggested to go on the back of his shirt, Martin.
This is more like the West Ham of the first 15 minutes. But, Brentford back in more orderly fashion. Well, here goes Lewis Potter. Mavropanos goes across with great determination. There's nothing like that for the fans to get excited about, is it? That wearing your heart on your sleeve and the studs on your boots. Jensen. Lewis Potter ahead of him. Tony through the middle. Mope going for one to feet. West Ham rather passive here. Mope, only a bit of space to run into. He gets a touch to it, early cross towards Tony. Jensen stands it up well. Well, that is a cool piece of play from Thomas Soucek. Drops for Kudus. He makes a bit of space for himself. Got players either side, but that's in his nature. And you don't want to curb it, really, of course. When we look at it now and the shot fizzed wide, there were other options.
It's great intent, isn't it? It's what the West Ham fans and the team's been crying out for in these particular games that are close. That ability, that want to go forward, to aim himself directly at the opposition goal. He had options either side in Jarrod Bowen and James Ward-Prowse, but I'd say well within his rights to take the shot on when you are approaching the edge of the 18-yard box.
Here's Onyeka. Frank the Tank, he was nicknamed when he arrived. Jensen optimistic. Reguilon. Me just rolling it down the line. That was rather passive from West Ham. And this has been the problem. When they've been good, as we've seen, they establishing the 2-goal lead. And they certainly, I think their last win was away to Arsenal. And well deserved, the end of December. But since then, they have had these lapses. Ward-Prowse. Gets it again. And looks for Bowen. Tidied up by Ayer.
The key part about perhaps the message that David Moyes wants to reiterate at half-time is don't get bored with the stuff that's working well. Yes, it was going to be a reaction at some stage from Brentford because Brentford are a good side and they had a terrible start to the game. But what they did with getting forward, committing bodies forward, sometimes you get 2-0 up early in a game and it feels comfortable, but with that comfort can come a certain over-composure that means you drop back and you go further back and it invites the opposition on.
Mavropanos, of course, had a spell with Arsenal. It's a little bit more in the melting pot, the game now. It's slowed the tempo as if after that flurry of good finishing but not such good defensive marking, as if players have remembered what their defensive jobs are. It's a little bit harder to carve the openings that were coming aplenty. the first 20 minutes. Mark Flacken had a pretty rough start to his time in Brentford's goal. Certainly was low on the save percentages, the ratio of shots to being saved. But in February, he's been fantastic. Souček. Paquetá keeps it in. Mopé is not one to be trifled with, but he's kept his thoughts to himself this time. He has a roguish side, and I can tell you this is what he says, not what I'm saying. He puts it down to his mother, who's from Argentina. And please understand that's his take on his temperament, not mine.
He's never scared about stepping forward into the confrontation, is he? I suppose the best thing you can say about his spell at Everton was that he came out of it with his confidence completely unscathed, seemingly.
Seemingly so. West Ham's free kick. Next goal, very important. And maybe it's coming for the Hammers here. That player who's renowned for heading goals, Thomas Souček, couldn't keep that one down.
Almost felt like it took the rest of the squad by surprise, in the sense of the initial ball being played squarely instead of into the box.
Well, they're not shot shy. David Moyes said after the defeat at Forest, their last game, in the final third we were very poor. And having not scored in 3 games and then scoring 2 in the first 4 or 5 minutes here, we'll be forgiven for thinking, well, we've sorted that out, but I've just got a feeling they're going to need to score again. Stepping in. There's Mavropanos. Jensen, the midfield man with the Thomas Frank haircut. Lewis Potter. Now Christian Norgard. Danish contingent at Brentford. It's got prospect of facing England in the European Championships in the summer. Reguilon. Jensen. Stepping forward really for the first time. Reguilon trying to bend it round Vladimir Sofal. Just loping towards the near post, the more reachable target you feel for Jensen. He does reach it, but can't direct it.
Certainly plenty to say, I think, at half-time. It was a wonderfully bright start. Bless him, he does cut a disconsolate figure at times, but I think that's more to do with the fact that he's a sizable walk from the actual seats to where the edge of the technical area is. It's the first time I think I've seen Kevin Nolan get up.
There are rules about how many can stand, though, David.
They're probably very happy here, though. Yeah. You mean we've got to stay here and not walk 20 yards every time we want to make a point, boss? Perfect. Memories of Slaven Bilic doing it before he had his hip surgery, bless him, walking backwards and forwards. I think in the end he just ended up sitting down and barking orders from his chair.
It's not quite like it is at Brentford, is it, where you're virtually out of your technical area onto the pitch. Here's Zuma. Now Paquetá. Emerson ends up on the deck, and Simon Hooper may well have given that as a foul. Oh, a little bit of jollity between James Ward-Prowse and the official. Thanks for giving me the free kick and the chance to show off my my '1 talent, which is putting this sort of ball right into a goal-scoring area. Can he do it this time with half-time approaching? And, well, he did. Oh, it was offside. Souček, who could have scored before the first goal, lunging and putting it over, but it wouldn't have counted.
Really good line, wasn't it, held by Brentford. Deep free kick, going directly up against a very high line, being held by the visitors. Quite clearly offside, so foul.
3 added minutes. West Ham have had an interesting draw in the Europa League against Freiburg, who they played twice and beaten twice in the group stages. So I'll fuel the optimism here that they can go deep into the season again in the continental competition. Tony. And what did you say about free kicks given outside the penalty area?
Question then is one for Thomas Frank to potentially raise with the referee later on.
How is that any different to what happened?
I can't disagree, Martin, at all.
The difference is where the offence was committed.
It's almost a subconscious approach, isn't it, from potentially officials? Not saying there's anything premeditated in it, but that bit of leeway, tiny bit of leeway given to that same coming together in the box, and a very straightforward free kick to give out of it.
Here, in added time before half-time. It'd be extraordinary if Brentford got a goal to go in level after what happened at the beginning, and Ivan Toney might just do that, and he should have done it. But the flag was up. Any suggestion that... one thing about Simon Hooper I haven't passed on, awarded no penalties this season.
It looked to be a very, very good decision by the assistant on that side. Very quick turnaround, and the different directions of the players can be a tough one.
Well, what have you made of the first half?
It started very brightly, even more brightly if you are a West Ham fan. Brentford needed to do something because they were nowhere near it for the opening 15 minutes. They've recalibrated, they've offered more of a threat going forward. West Ham in fits and starts towards the end of this first half have started to shine a bit more, but given what David Moyes wanted from his side going into the game and potentially coming out the back end of it, he's got to be happy with large portions of it, but this game is nowhere near done.
Well, it's Sofal who has the equivalent role for West Ham to Jensen for Brentford. Last passage of play before half-time. And Lewis Potter didn't get it away very far. That was a miscue by Ward-Prowse. He's going to want it back again. Ben Mee on the lunge, knowing he had to get that. Ward-Prowse goes down, and he's going to get another chance to put it in and for West Ham to load the box. Or is he? He's not. Half-time. Well, it was a flyer, particularly from Jarrod Bowen. Remember, they hadn't scored in their last 3 games. He got 2 in a couple of minutes. And it looked as though Brentford at that stage were struggling to get any sort of act together. But Neil Maupay, who's come up with some important goals since he rejoined the club, got another one here. And Brentford have built to some extent on that. They might have had a penalty, but at half-time they go in trailing West Ham here at the London Stadium by 2-1. Worry David Moyes and his coaching staff is that Maupay's dodged his way through to get Brentford back in the game to make it 2-1. All the goals coming early in the first half. And Brentford with 57% possession. You wouldn't say their game was particularly possession-based. But after that awful beginning, when Jarrod Bowen got 2 in a couple of minutes and put himself, and he's still on the brink of what would be a first career hat-trick. It is a strange mood around West Ham United at the moment. From the neutral point of view, you think your Europa League got a real chance of getting through the next round against a team you've beaten twice already. The top half of the table compared to the bottom half of the table at this time last year. More points, more goals this season, but it's not what they really
what they're after,
see.
Which is, again, the more you talk about it, Martin, it's almost like you can hear yourself saying the words and then you realise how backwards that actually really does sound, given you can't generate this type of play.
You made a very good point. You know, the fans are so important, and they're entitled to their opinion. And it's not everybody, but there is a groundswell here.
Enough.
Yeah. Here's Ward-Prowse. They'll be off their feet if this leads to a goal. But Simon Hooper spotted a bit of grabbing in there, I think. West Ham have dropped to 10th, but a win would take them above Newcastle and above Wolves. This is have another look at. Well, the Brentford players know their responsibility when Neil Maupay's around, but Kevin Nolan's a man with a great sense of humour, so I can only think it must be quite serious. But here goes Onyeka, which might test all West Ham's sense of humour. As Lewis Potter has the goalkeeper caught in two minds, nowhere near catching the ball. Up in the air from Jensen, taken down by Reguilon, who is taken down not unfairly by Sofal. Well, there's a problem for Ben Mee here, right at the start of the second half.
He was sat down for several seconds, wasn't he? Made the attempt to get up because he did see that Reguilon had given the ball away, and there was a West Ham attack in the offing. Again, potentially the point that the West Ham players are maybe making is the fact that without it being an actual head injury, of course, which the referee has to stop, this one's a bit more interpretive.
Well, it looks serious enough with Thomas Frank working out. Nathan Collins is a centre-back. He's had a little bit of a tough time recently. He's probably the only logical replacement, unless they moved Norgard into the back line and stiffen the midfield with the likes of Janelt. Collins is up and reading his prompt card for where to be at set pieces.
I think you'd put Ben Mee at the more robust end of Premier League defenders, wouldn't you? So to say that it's a genuine problem is pretty accurate.
Janelt getting ready as well. Well, Collins has got his tracksuit top on, and Janelt has got his match shirt on. So it looks as though if only one change is required, it is going to be the German.
So Bobby Moore's old defensive partner earlier on, didn't he? And wonder what he'd make of all the technology and the sportswear that goes underneath an actual shirt nowadays to track every single thing that a player's doing.
And there was a time where even wearing a vest was frowned upon. I'm sure you wore plenty of vests. No disrespect to modern technology.
To vest or to me. Was the old shout of no gloves, no hats and training from the delightful mouth of Gary Megson at times. Yeah, I'm sure you can picture just how he put that across.
That's a nice ball into Bowen. Is anybody going to feed off it? It's knocked down by the player who scored the two West Ham goals so far, looking for Kudus. So 5 minutes gone in the second half, and I'm sure David Moyes and Ben Mee is soldiering on. I'm sure David Moyes will say, look, it's not to say you've won it once. 2 goals in the first 5 minutes isn't going to win you a game, but you put yourself in a winning position. Now you've got to go out and do it again.
I said at the close of, or as the first half was closing down, was don't get bored or overly complicated with what you're doing, because what they did in the opening 10 minutes was superbly effective, full of high energy and power and presence, and it just seemed to kind of wilt away over the course of the first period of the game.
Here's Lewis Potter not pressed with the cross, and well, there was a bit of dip and whip on the ball, but for Ivan Toney and his standards, it's a presentable chance, and West Ham had melted away from the Brentford danger man. Good ball and no attempt to stop the cross.
That's the ironic thing about this, because it is a good ball into a good area. It's an ugly pass though, isn't it? Because it's all over the place. Ivan Toney can't really gauge where the trajectory of the ball is going to go. He's saying there, isn't he? It's all over the place.
It was like a knuckleball, wasn't it? But Keane Lewis Potter invited to cross the ball. Well, the cards come out for Zanka. It will be recorded perhaps as Matthias Jürgensen, which is his proper name. Been in English football for a while now. As part of Huddersfield Town's adventure into the Premier League a few years ago. Reguilon's got to control his emotions here. Is Simon Hooper going to go for a second yellow? Reguilon's attitude, it looks as though he was, but I don't think he is.
Well, I mean, it's just, do you know, I know this will never ever happen, but with the technology that's involved in football now, if you just pause the game and said, Sergio Reguilon, please look at the big screen. This is the challenge you've just made. It's quite clearly a foul. I understand getting caught up in the moment, I absolutely do, but the Casemiro-like reaction to it doesn't help anybody, does it?
Well, it certainly doesn't help Brentford, who now have a free kick to defend. And well, Bowen was trying to bring it down or volley it across, but it didn't work out either way. And we're still in this sort of limbo stage in the match where Brentford have a good belief that they can get something, and West Ham short of results recently and not looking particularly impressive in defending a lead. But here's Emerson, but he's given it away to Toney. And now Lewis Potter, Maupay hovering on the edge of the penalty area. Lewis Potter driving on to good effect. But in the end, Alvarez stopped the ball getting into any position of peril for West Ham, but Brentford come again. Lewis Potter again. Tony's touch hasn't been its greatest tonight. Bowen. Well, for an injured player, that's a good challenge. Ben-Mee limps away as he gets back up again.
Still looking a little bit ginger on his feet, isn't he, at the moment? Total commitment, of course, from Ben-Mee to making the challenge and seeing off the danger, but at what cost?
And Lewis Potter's really got into the game. There's Ben-Mee, 34 now. And one of many footballers who's an outstanding spokesman on other matters that footballers get asked about. Statesman-like, really. Jensen. Brentford's Achilles heel really has been making individual mistakes at the back, and although they're certainly threatening to come back from 2-0 down to get something from the game, that is the shadow that's cast over their recent performances, particularly in the home defeat to Liverpool, where they rather stood and watched, particularly against the returning Mo Salah. It wasn't the best policy.
No, and that must be the infuriating thing for a manager. I haven't had the pleasure of spending time with Thomas Frank since he took over at Brentford, of course, being part of the staff there.
It's a nice touch from Tony to Lewis Potter. Brentford trying to get numbers into the box. Popped back in by Jensen.
Because when he first took over, Thomas, there was a torrid run of games. It's about 10 games, I think, where they went without a win. I spoke to him after one of them where in the first couple of minutes, his then centre-half at the time had stood on the ball, rolled it into the centre-forward of the opposition who promptly went on to score, and the exasperation in his voice of saying, I wasn't telling the players to do that.
Here's Lewis Potter. He's probably telling the players to have a crack whenever possible. He's just turned 23, the young number 23 for Brentford. Bowen on the burst. Paquetá trying to come in from out to back him up. Onyeka still going, eased over by Ward-Prowse. Referee Hooper hasn't stopped the game. Onyeka hell-bent on getting the ball back. Pressing from Jensen on Souček, and Areola has to hoist it. And that might stay in for keen Lewis Potter. A good spell for Brentford. Onyeka. It's a corner. Reguilon trying his luck.
The word limbo was such a great one to describe where we found ourselves in this game, because Brentford just easing themselves into a position of authority within this second half. They shaded, of course, the possession in the first 45 minutes. They're now looking to push on that advantage, try and gain some form of parity.
Well, the corners are a good way for Brentford to do it. They've got the stats to back it up, and West Ham's weaknesses are also backed up by stats that they don't want to read about. A mixture of some marking, but some zonal defending, particularly by the front post. So foul. Rather sums up the moment, but they can chase this. West Ham find themselves with to check back again. Tony trying to carve it forward. Alvarez with a slightly desperate look to the clearance. Kudus wants a free kick, he's not going to get it. Brentford trying to turn a screw here. Off goes Mopé. Down goes Mopé. Mee's challenge. And there's no one far enough to up the pitch for West Ham. Flekken has played half a dozen times for the Netherlands. And the crowd have decided that West Ham need a bit of help. Come on, you Irons. It's the cry. Paquetá, you just wonder, well, we're up to the hour mark now, how long David Moyes will risk him. Ben Mee has to give in, I think. Nathan Collins is to come on. One centre-back for another.
Certainly given it a go, hasn't he, Ben Mee?
Well, they've got a 23-year-old wearing number 23 and a 22-year-old wearing number 22 coming on. Republic of Ireland international. And he's gone straight down to get some immediate attention on whatever the damage is. And he is one of the leadership group, if you like, replaced by a far less experienced player, Bowen. But here's Onyeka. Gets it back from Mope. Tony. Looking for Lewis Potter. Tried to juggle it around Mavropanos, couldn't quite achieve his goal and get a goal.
A little bit too much, wasn't it, from Keane Lewis Potter? He's been most effective in this second half and he's kept it really simple, used his pace to attack that side of the West Ham United defence.
Nice ball by Alvarez to Kudus, in a position where he loves to get defenders running at them. Direct, dangerous first test for Collins.
He knows it's going to be pitched straight into the sharp end of what's going on here. Ivan Toney making his way back to help out his defence as well.
West Ham have their first corner of the evening. And they've got plenty of height. Another goal now would give them some insurance. And towards Zuma by the near post. That's Emerson. Brentford trying to break out. Tony has to wait for it. And then only nudges it back towards the Paquetá. And here's Emerson. He's won a few things in his career, Emerson. The Champions League with Chelsea and a non-playing sub. He was with Italy when they won the Euros at England's expense. Kudus. Bowen! History for Jarrod Bowen. After 16 career doubles, he's got a treble. And at a very important time for West Ham United. And the players know what it means to the scorer personally, but they also recognise what he's done for them.
It smiles all round, isn't it? As a neutral, it's a wonderful sight to see, isn't it? In the context of this game, could really push West Ham towards a vital win and an extremely vital 3 points. He's not going to have much more space inside a 6-yard box perhaps this season because nobody picks him up. Stands there, waits there, the ball's delivered. Yes, he's got to finish it. Inside the 6-yard box though, odds stacked in his favour. But from a finishing point of view tonight, it's been a masterclass, hasn't it, from Jarrod Bowen. Red letter day in his career. A man that we've seen work his way through the levels and established now in the Premier League. A joy to see.
Yes, from pretty humble origins in non-league football, but with the determination of someone who always believed that if he was given the chance, he'd make the most of it. And Brentford again have just given a masterclass in ball watching, which is not the way to defend, to let a relatively small player, but certainly the sharp end of the West Ham attack, who has headed a few goals in his time, all that space, so close. Would it have happened if Ben Mee had been on the pitch?
Great shout. That man is the one that really does marshal that defence, doesn't he? Nathan Collins come on in his place, but Jarrod Bowen in the right place at the right time. As we said, with his first 2 goals, he gambled, he made sure he was in an offensive position to affect the game. There's been a real quiet hour in between that stellar start and this portion of the game for West Ham, but good ball into the box, well-timed run into the box. As you say, Martin, the freedom of the box to box it off from the point of view of what could have possibly been better from Brentford.
Three in the centre. Oh, and that looked as though it squeezed past Areola, it did, but outside the post. And Onyeka still looking for his first Brentford goal. And he must have thought he had a chance of getting it here.
It's probably the reason he took this on, because if you look, Ivan Toney's shaping up behind him, isn't he, for his left foot attempts at it.
It's a great shot, actually, and a very, very good save from a man who'll be 31 tomorrow. In front of him, Thomas Souček will be 29 tomorrow. Any celebrations will reflect what the final score is tonight, of course, and Brentford looking to come again. It was 3-2 in Brentford's favour in the game across in West London in November. Brentford asking for a penalty, and it looks as though what they've got is a goal kick. Simon Hooper just letting the hot heads calm down a bit. David.
Potentially it's all a little needless here. I think West Ham have a point by being a little bit miffed, shall we say, with the actions of Norgard. Arms are up, of course, by Sofal, not anywhere near enough to get Norgard to the ground.
And tension down on the touchline as well. Kevin Nolan having a say. He was part of a great Sam Allardyce team who knew how to work set pieces.
Tough team, that one, my word.
Bolton Wanderers.
Going back to the Maupay and Nolan discussion, shall we say, at the start of the second half, it shows that there's a real gameness to Maupay, because, tell you what, Nolan's not a shrinking violet, nor is he a tiny fella.
And here is Ward-Prowse. West Ham looking to seal the deal here. Kudus blocked by Reguilon. Ward-Prowse available again. Good cross by Kudus. It comes out to Emerson. Shoot is the cry. Shoot he does! A sensational shot. And there's no coming back for Brentford now. West Ham 4, Brentford 1. And the crowd played their part.
There is no better combination in football than the low rumble of a crowd demanding shoot, and then the player duly obliging and smashing it into the top corner. It's a decent effort once again down the right-hand side by Kudus, and his feet, his ability to put the ball into the box. But when you do see a player take a touch and shape up, the cynic in you says, go on then, if you can score from there, fair play. This one is absolutely exceptional. We've been in for a treat tonight. We wondered what we were going to get at the London Stadium. I'll be honest, it's nearer on a classic, isn't it? Goals, a hat-trick.
His second ever Premier League goal. And the infrequency of it, it's a silly thing to say that he won't get one any better. He might not get ever anyone again, but he's lifted the roof off the London Stadium tonight. So, two doubles really, isn't it? The two quick ones in the first half and the two quick ones in the middle of the second half. And this could turn out to be a real battering for Brentford, because West Ham want more. The insecurities have gone. They've found their goal touch again, and how. There'll be a triple change for Thomas Frank. Fair tackle from Norgard. Ward-Prowse. Brentford are really creaking now. Paquetá. Bowen trying to reverse it back to the Brazilian. A little touch for Brentford from Tony. Mopé with nowhere to go but backwards. Norgard. Jensen. Onyeka. Tony. Norgard. It was a challenge, but there were no great appeals from Brentford. Bowen waiting for support. See the three waiting to come on. Bottom of your screen. Bowen. With Roslev and Janelt, familiar faces in the Brentford ranks, which of course has been away with Congo. Finished 4th in the AFCON. Bowen.
It's amazing what a few goals does, isn't it? We've gone from banners out to Olays.
David Moyes might be saying one or two of those, because in 43 different Premier League clubs he's met, there were no great appeals. Norgard didn't say too much. Paquetá was the man. What do you think?
It was clumsy. I don't think that actual contact is what sends Norgard to the ground. I think he feels the contact and realises, given the geography of where he is inside the 18-yard box, it gives it a try.
Do you think the earlier incident a couple of minutes ago might have preyed on Simon Hooper's mind?
Very much so, yeah. I don't think players do themselves favours when they do one thing like that, then attempt, again, the boy that cried wolf, isn't it? It's the player that cried pen. So the next time, potentially, human nature would say that the referee's kind of keeping his powder dry with it.
I like that one. Player cried pen. Very good.
It's all yours, Martin.
No, it's
you've given us enough. You can take the tiniest bit off me.
Well, it's worth taking, that's what I would say. Emerson intercepts. Well, Prowse has had a crack from a bit more central and a bit more to aim at, perhaps, but well covered by Flecken.
It feels like they're really enjoying themselves as well, West Ham. That's not something you could have said during the course of 2024 so far. Even less David Moyes has had to sit and watch it and take the brickbats for it.
Here's Wisser. Let's say Brentford, the only team he hasn't beaten in the Premier League of the 43 he's faced. I think that stat's about to be put to bed tonight.
And again, hopefully, potentially, it mirrors what we heard coming out of the mouth of David Moyes post the Nottingham Forest defeat, talking about being a winner in the fight that he's got.
Those spotters gone to the left now. And, still prepared to try and do something to alter the course of events. Mikel Antonio has had, not for the first time in his career, a lengthy injury absence. He did start at Nottingham Forest last week, looked a bit rusty, probably be the first to admit that. I haven't seen too much of him here for a while. Here's Jensen. Roslev is now the right wing back. So whether in terms of actual contribution He's played a part, but I think his presence on the field has made a massive difference, David.
It's not only what he does individually, it's what he gives to his teammates, how he lifts his teammates, and he's absolutely done that. That's why he's getting hug off his manager. David Moyes knew he had to get him back on the pitch to be effective, not just for himself, but for his team.
Mikael Damsgaard is on for Matthias Jensen. One Dane for another. Damsgaard, incidentally, hasn't scored for Brentford, and he hasn't scored since that fantastic Wembley free kick in the semi-final of the Euros against England. We'll stab at it from Sanka. Norgard on long throw duty.
They need to make sure that this last perhaps 20 minutes or so, West Ham is as composed and as comfortable as possible. Don't invite pressure on. Don't allow quite sizable attacking players that Brentford do still have on the pitch the opportunity to just add a bit of spice and a bit of jeopardy to the closing proceedings of this game.
Yeah, because it's in the Brentford's DNA to keep coming, even in this very demoralising situation for many teams. And their desire to keep going may well open another door for West Ham to come sailing through. Antonio.
I think you're right with Mikel Antonio. He's a player that does thrive on rhythm, doesn't he? The power that he shows, the ability to get up and down a football pitch, does really get fed by minutes upon minutes upon minutes on the pitch itself.
He has, I think, an unusual quality with his goals. He scores the difficult ones and doesn't always master the tap-in. But he's been a great servant here and worked his way up the pitch, really. He was seen as a defensive player, or a winger anyway, after that. But he's on the left now.
Shades, little shades of perhaps the Jarrod Bowen rise as well. Had the pleasure of Mikel as a teammate a very long time ago when he was on loan at Sheffield Wednesday, and given our predicament at the time, it was our tactic to roll it out to him in the full-back area and allow him to go galloping up the field and do whatever he wanted with it come the time he got to the opposition 18-yard box.
And he did make his name around those times, didn't he? Spell at Forest as well. Tony trying the shot. Well, this is what Antonio can do, but still got a bit to do on the training ground. I think he had a good chance at Forest, actually got clear from the halfway line and tried to slip past that very promising young defender from Brazil, Murillo, and he couldn't quite finish the job off.
I do get the feeling, though, that this result could be pretty seminal in West Ham's season, and again the arrival of players back from injury and AFCON.
Yeah, it's on the verge of taking them up a couple of places. Qualifying for Europe via league position. Of course, they could qualify by going all the way in the Europa League, which would be a feather in the cap. Sofal has misjudged that, committed, and Lewis Potter is away, one of 5 players forward for Brentford, running into the holding midfield player Alvarez. Yeah, Bowen has kept his place through the middle with Antonio on. Well, he's drifting right at the moment. What a special night for him. Very likeable guy, and a great credit to his profession and to his football club. Ward-Prowse.
As well, Martin, great credit to yourself. It was a little half a chat at half-time about the potential of a Bowen hat-trick, and came to fruition.
Yeah, for a long time, I counted up the doubles, but I've had a bit of help from behind the scenes, I have to be honest with that. But it was nice to be here to see it happen, that's for sure. I apologise to the Brentford fans for saying that, but it's a hard-working player. On a night where his club needed a good performance from everybody, he's really led from the front. Damsgaard. It's tough for Brentford to keep going in these circumstances. Chasing this man's been hard enough all night, and he's away again. But it hits Kudus on the side of the foot. But Jarrod Bowen's just cramped up a little bit. It's a bit slow to get himself up again. And here's Wissa, who will have a go. And what a go! That's Brentford for you. They never pack it in. And he can't believe it. He wants to nail it down at 4-1.
It's the glare, isn't it, from David Moyes, because he knows there's potentially time left in this game for it to go not the way that he wants it to. Wonderful finish from Wissa. We've been treated to some really well-taken goals tonight. The little gap that he gets between Tofal and Zuma, bouncing it into the bottom corner. Kind of finishing that Brentford have been woefully lacking this evening.
It's been checked, actually. We haven't had too much VAR tonight. But, I must say, from that angle, it does look onside. But we await the VAR ruling. Of course, that is not directly across. That is one of the issues with offside, as how the lines are drawn. That says onside, which hasn't communicated to the referee yet. It has now.
Relatively straightforward, I think, with the naked eye. Martin, given the volume of games that you certainly have seen over me, that looked to be a pretty straightforward decision. But of course, they've got to make sure that everything's checked properly and they're not leaving themselves open for debate.
Now, I must say, no, there are many a time where you think, and commentating on the goal, you think, well, that could be offside. That never crossed my mind on that one. So it's 4-2, and Brentford fight on. Thomas Frank rolling the dice with the substitutions, and one of his substitute getting a goal. Which has not happened very often with West Ham. Only one substitute goal this season. That was from Kudus when he came on against Crystal Palace. Souček. Here is the aforementioned. It's quietened the ground again, hasn't it? Every little setback seems to be a crisis.
There's certainly a few murmurings around us as well with regards to how the goal went in and where it comes from. Nervousness is around us.
Yeah, and here's Lewis Potter. Now Ruslev. Lots of Brentford players in the box. That's no sort of clearance. Ward-Prowse battling for it. Wissa's there again. Antonio trying to get away, as only he can. Still 5 minutes plus added time to go. Janelt.
Just get the feeling it could be pretty substantial given the amount of substitutes we've had and the goal check.
It's all back for West Ham. We've talked about the substance in West Ham's performance. We're seeing the brittle nature of the confidence at the moment. And it's another thrilling Premier League game 10th against 16th. It still divvies up. High level excitement. And as always the case this season, so many goals. In by Zanka. Alvarez didn't clear it. A bit lucky. Souček found Ward-Prowse. Antonio, auxiliary left back in these circumstances. Alvarez. Kudus. Collins hesitated. Kudus didn't. But, he's not so good on his right side.
Well, again, great intent, wasn't it, from Kudus? A few times that he's got the ball to his feet, especially in the second half. He's not thought twice about driving towards the Brentford defence. Now it's just about being able to manage the game to its conclusion, because there is still the air of potentially things going wrong for West Ham here.
Here's Damsgaard. Ruslev, Tony, Wissa in the middle, Tony, back for Ruslev, Tony seizes it again, stopped by Emerson. Antonio, and we've got 2 balls on the pitch, which is usually something the team that wants to run down the clock does quite deliberately. I think that was quite accidental. Norgard. Here's Collins. Oh, that was a sharp turn for this late in the game.
He's not been absolutely at it, has he, Ivan Toney? He's gone wandering, he's been on the right, he's been on the left, he's gone down the middle, he's dropped deep, looking to create something for Thomas Frank and his men. This was an absolute beauty, wasn't it?
It's taken quite a lot to get a smile out of David Moyes recently. But that
when it comes, though, it's a real thing of genuine joy, isn't it?
It is. It is. They've got 7 added minutes, we're being told, so the ball is not yet done for West Ham. That's a little kick of the ball away. He's going to get booked for that. Alvarez. It's another thing at the start of the season we were told would happen a lot. Perhaps hasn't happened quite a lot. It's delaying the restart, it's called.
Very straightforward one for the referee to give. Less than 5 yards away from the infringement.
Now, if Brentford could nick one here, we are in for a grandstand finish. Offside against Wissa, I think.
Kurt Zuma's just calming things down, isn't he? Frustration for Ivan Toney as well. Not being able to create something with a decent enough ball into the box from the goalkeeper. But once again, you've got to reference the atmosphere, because it is one of... It is collective nervousness, isn't it? They're not getting rallied and pushed towards the finish line, the West Ham fans. Maybe, as I said, fans well within the rights have seen not very many things in 2024 to get them overly excited, but it's a mutual coming together that does get you over the line. And then that the announcer talking about 7 minutes added time, it's the Brentford fans that you're hearing a little louder than the West Ham fans at the moment.
It's like the boiler's broken down. It's only cold water, having had a fair bit of heat earlier in the piece. And Brentford trying to capitalise on it. Not like that. He rather has summed up his night. Emerson. Antonio. Bowen now on the left. They have swapped roles, traded places. Bowen still effective. Crunching but fair tackle from Norgard. And here's Damsgaard. Tony ahead of him. Wisser ahead of him. Damsgaard got it on to Wisser. It's over Tony. No one coming in at the back post. But again, nervy defending from West Ham United. Here's Roslev. Lewis Potter giving chase. Collins careering forward on that far side. Zanka. In by Collins. Wins another header. Talk about inviting pressure. Obviously the finishing line is in sight in this famous stadium, but West Ham approaching it somewhat gingerly, but in the lead. And Bowen responsible for that with his first career hat-trick. And Brentford easily get it back and come again. Norgard, no challenge at all. Here's Tony. To slide it in, Norgard. Just flew away for the corner. Janelt beyond the far post.
It was a decent enough ball into the box, but I don't know, maybe an Ivan Toney in better form than we've seen him in tonight takes it on slightly differently, maybe as a diving header. Got to say, he's one of the oddest periods in a match, running down the clock, that I've felt in recent seasons. It's almost as if West Ham are 4-2 down.
So the corner doesn't threaten their nervousness. Well, the clock is on their side, so Kudus is coming off. Ben Johnson, who gets on for his 100th appearance. It's going to be a short one.
Well, the only thing that Ben Johnson needs to do is make sure that West Ham get over the line with all 3 points here. It's very, very simple, his job.
I think the Man of the Match award has been quite an easy decision tonight. Sanka Jorgensen. Janelt. Damsgaard. Still training exercise, attack against defence, but West Ham have got a real position to defend. And in the Premier League, going into 7 minutes, yeah, 2 goals could happen, but now we're into less than 3. And I think the mood will change from concern to celebration. Not long now. Roslev. Oh, there's a slip into Tony, and there's Lewis Potter and Collins. Collins again. Lewis Potter again there. Tony going in. Oh, it's kept out. Roslev going in. Well, Areola stopped a very nervous last couple of minutes. Ivan Toney is as close as he's come to scoring, David.
It's a superb save when his goalie was needed. He managed to stand up, or ironically dive to his left-hand side and pull it outside and away from danger.
It's a better corner this time, but Bowen, I think, who heads it away. Janelt. Advantage played. This is Reguilon. And another save for Areola, and another chance for Tony from a tight angle. And I mean, David Moyes is great, but there are shades, aren't
My
there?
word. That really put him through the ringer. This could have been made so much more straightforward.
In by Norgard. Flecken stepping into midfield. Röslev. And Collins thought he was being fouled then, hoping he was going to get a free kick in a good position. He's actually given one away. Sofal knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, he needed to buy that, and you can tell by him staring at the ground. He knows that his teammate Jarrod Bowen has done so much this evening to make sure that West Ham do turn this corner, much needed corner, not just for the club and the fans, but the manager, under intense pressure from certain sections of the West Ham faithful. But 3 very well taken goals. Superb header to tip off that first career hat-trick. And at that stage, it looked like it would be relatively plain sailing towards the final whistle in this game. There's been too much jeopardy in the last 10 minutes for David Moyes and West Ham's liking, but it does look like, without tempting some serious fate, that they're going to get there.
Believe my Premier League standards. I don't think you can quite write a script, having been lucky enough to see what Manchester City did on the final day of a season in very improbable circumstances, but the crowd calling for the whistle from Simon Hooper. Flecken hoists it up. Collins tries to get there. Johnson is going to get the last touch of the game, I think. And there is the relief of the final whistle. Well, it wasn't perfect for David Moyes, but it was much, much, much better. They scored to start with. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. 3 of them to Jarrod Bowen. A special night in his career. And an absolute rocket from Emerson. But there were lapses that allowed Neil Maupay to score and the substitute, Johan Wissa, to score. Other chances near the end. Areola made a couple of late saves when he was probably thinking that there wasn't going to be too much more danger. Brentford are still in serious trouble. It's been a bad day for them. They've seen Everton gain 4 points and they've conceded 4 goals. And they leave the London Stadium empty-handed. But West Ham are back on some sort of track. They're up a couple of places in the table. The match ball is going to the Bowen home, and it's West Ham 4, Brentford 2.